Thursday, and welcome to Mansfield Today, as usual, courtesy of our friends at Flight Centre. We talk travel on a Thursday. Jeepers, it was just last week that Andrew Stark was in here from Flight Centre, and we were celebrating the opening up of Mauritius as a new venue from around about October. But it's not good news on the local front following the President's speech on Sunday evening because, well, from the mainstream hospitality industry, nothing has really changed. We're joined via Zoom by Graham Woods, the Chief Operating Officer of Sun International here on the Travel Show. Graham, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on Mansfield Today. As I said, nothing has really changed for you guys. Were you expecting any changes ahead of that family meeting on Sunday night?
No, hi, Jeremy. Well, we were quietly hoping maybe that our casino business could reopen, given the fact that we've had so much success in the casino space as regards to our health protocols and a very, very low infection rate and risk of transmission in our casinos. Was quietly hoping maybe that there would be a softening of the provincial discretionary travel ban out of Gauteng. But to be honest, with where the cases have been going, I think it would have been something a little bit more hopeful than what reality is actually showing itself.
Because, I mean, essentially, what a lot of people may not realize, because your company has morphed over the years, you're essentially, you were a hotel business. You're essentially a gambling business now with the hotels as the backup.
Yeah, we're a casino business with a hotel portfolio. So we have 12 casinos and 19 hotels. So, but the big property that suffers a lot out of all of this, of course, is Sun City, because we're everything there. We're mainly a resort and hotel and hospitality business, entertainment, and gaming is part of our activities. But once you have to close the casino at Sun City and you have no provincial leisure travel out of Gauteng, then you really are in trouble, because you've got no source market out of Gauteng from a provincial leisure point of view. You've got no international inbound travel to speak of, and you've got no gatherings, which means you've got no conferencing. So all our key market segments are under real pressure at that property.
I want to come back to that particular property in just a moment, but I also want to bring in here Chris Gibbons at this stage, who is our business guru. His show goes out on a Monday on Mansfield Today. Because he has a question for you, Graham, that he'd like to pose. Chris, over to you.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yes, Graham, the question from me is simply this pandemic thing, which started in March of last year. We thought then, well, maybe a year, it'll all be over. We're now looking at 18 months at least. This can run far, far into the future with all these variants cropping up. It hammers your business. How long can you stand it? How strong is your balance sheet given this incredible onslaught from COVID-19?
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for the question. We did a lot of work in 2020 in terms of restructuring our business. We took a lot of costs out of our business. We unfortunately had to retrench a number of employees. We had to reorganize all our operations. As you know, we sold our interests out of South America. We did a rights issue last year. So in fact, our balance sheet has strengthened off the back of all the work that we did in 2020. So we can sustain a period of lockdown. But, obviously the longer this lockdown continues, if it continues through past July into, and I'm talking about adjusted level 4 lockdown into August, September, that obviously puts pressure on our business and puts pressure on our industry. But from a sustainability of our business point of view, we're okay that we can sustain this certainly the month of July and certainly into August, probably for at least 2 to 3 months. But no one's looking that far ahead. We've got to believe that our vaccination program has got to take effect. the cases have got to start peaking and coming down, and then we can slowly but surely reopen again.
Graham, another person I'd like to bring in here is another one of our regulars. He does our cooking show. He joins us now from Austria, Chef Martin Cobalt. Martin, you can go ahead with your question for Graham.
Well, Graham, the question I would like to ask in general for the hospitality industry in South Africa, obviously been very hardly hit by COVID-19. So what do you think the impact, of course, the impact is humongous to have like over 1 million people jobless. But what do you think, what would be the cure? What's the way forward with COVID-19 and all these jobless people in the hospitality industry in South Africa?
Well, the issue on job losses in our industry is really a function of demand. Once we start to see demand returning and the inbound travel segment starting to gain effect, and sentiment starts improving in the domestic economy and people wanting to travel more and conferencing and start to recover, then you will start to see a recovery in jobs in our industry. It is an industry that can employ people quite quickly. It's an easy entry level industry for people to work in our space. So I think it can recover fairly quickly, but it's got to be on the back of a sustainable increase in demand. And unfortunately, I think that's going to take some time. I don't necessarily see international travel suddenly bouncing back into South Africa in the back end of 2021. We're all hoping for a busier season, the November through March period, particularly in Cape Town. But there's too many variables at the moment in our industry that's going to give us any degree of certainty that we're going to have a good season. So yes, we will rebound. There will be a recovery in jobs, but I think it's going to take some time.
Let's get back to that monster of yours out called Sun City. I don't think people realize what it takes to A, close down, B, maintain during close down, and then C, the cost of reopening a monster like Sun City.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that was actually very annoying in the first announcement, almost 3.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when the president just said overnight we're closing casinos and we're closing provincial leisure travel out of Gauteng. We actually had 800 people in one of our across our resort for breakfast on that Monday morning, which we now suddenly had to treat as a grab and go / takeaway offering off the strength of an announcement made at 8 o'clock the night before. And then we had to systematically start closing and moving people out. And we had 280 vacation club arrivals on that Monday, which we now had to say, sorry, we can't accommodate you now because it's just not worth our while staying open. And Jeremy, the biggest issue is the fatigue it starts to play on people who work in our industry. People have only started to come back to somewhere near full salaries, and then we're being locked down again. So now we have to reduce people's salaries again. And all our contractors have to cut their costs because we just can't afford to pay their full contract service costs whilst we're having to close. And so the knock-on effect is dramatic. And you can imagine a place like Sun City when there's a big community dependency on our resort, not only for employment but for all the CSI work and enterprise development work that we do, and the impact on that side of our business too is also devastating. But I must say, on the positive side, our resort is looking magnificent. We've just finished the Cascades refurb. Brett Hoppy, our GM there, who's done a fantastic job in pulling the people together, our team. The grounds and gardens are magnificent. The golf courses are magnificent. We've reopened the valley. Well, the valley has been refurbished again, so we're able to reopen once we're allowed to welcome people back. So the resort is magnificent, and when we do get to open and get some sustainability and demand and some sentiment improving, I would just urge people to come back to the resort because it is going to be magnificent.
Yeah, I think that's probably the the most worrying factor about these lockdowns, when they do come and when they are extended, is just the uncertainty that comes with it. And it affects everything all the way down the supply chain, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and that's what people don't realize. It is the knock-on effect. And you know, even at a place like around Sun City, it's the rural tourism that depends on Sun City. It's the small tour operator, the game drive operator, the people who are dependent on the Pilanesberg Reserve. You know, all those people also suffer as a consequence. So let's hope that this third wave can get over and done with quickly. The vaccination program can gain some momentum, and then we can get back to some degree of normality in the not too distant future.
Graham Woods, Chief Operating Officer of Sun International, thank you very much for your input into the travel sector here on Mansfield Today. Lovely to speak to you again, Graham, and we wish you all the best in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Let's move on to something totally different now on the travel show, which, as I said to you, is proudly brought to you by Flight Centre. All these COVID tests going on, and there's a certain amount of flights or people needing and able to fly for various reasons within South Africa, and obviously having to be tested for COVID. A bit of a schlep because you've got to be tested 48 hours before you leave Johannesburg or Cape Town or wherever you're flying to or from. But within the Johannesburg-Pretoria area or Greater Tshwane area, there is a company that's offering a very interesting service related to COVID. And we're joined now by the MD of Travac, Mike Skeppers. Mike, thank you for joining us in the studio here at Mansfield today. Nice to have you with us. You essentially are not, you weren't involved in COVID testing before this happened, because your company used to go out and give injections to people for things like yellow fever and all of that when they were traveling.
We started out as a mobile travel vaccination center.
Yeah.
So we did the yellow fever, hepatitis, meningitis, you name it. We would go out to the guys' homes or their offices, just make it a lot easier and a lot more convenient, save them time. And then when COVID struck, we were closed. There was no international travel, so we closed. We sat at the Vaal River, fished and drank beer for 6 months. And that's basically what we did. They then opened, I think it was October last year.
Yeah.
They reopened slowly. The international borders started opening, and they opened South African borders to our neighbours as well as to further other international companies. And it was sort of a natural growth. They were phoning and saying, if you come in to do our vaccinations, why don't you do our COVID test? So we jumped into this, not having a clue what we were doing initially. And we pop around, we've got registered nurses and drivers that we send around to your home or your office, and they come obtain the samples from you and your passport details, everything we need to get. Mm-hmm. We put everything together, we send the stuff to the labs, we get the results, we make sure you get all your documentation that is necessary for international travel, and make sure you get it on time. So we don't have too many, we take away another worry from a traveller, and these days there's plenty.
Yeah,
there's
is.
plenty.
And I believe that you guys are absolutely inundated.
We started with 2 teams, or actually 1, and a squeezer team, as we called it, for emergencies. At the moment, we're sitting with about 12 teams running around. We start at 6:30 in the morning. Obviously, because of the nature of the beast, it takes a bit of time. There's driving out to people, there's traffic jams, there's people not being there on time, et cetera, et cetera. But we normally, each team can get through about 10 clients a day. And then it's also divided into 2. We do corporate as well as individuals. So we would go to one person's house and collect 1 sample. And then we can also go to a corporate and do 45 people from the corporate side or the medical side. So we don't only do for travel purposes, we also do for the medical side as well. So we'll do the rapid antigen test where you get your results in 30 odd minutes, 20, 30 minutes. And we also do the full PCR test where we take the samples and the labs come fetch them from us. And you get the results the next morning.
What sort of costs are you looking at here? Is it a hell of a lot more than you would if you go to one of the walk-through centres?
No, because what we did was when we started this, I have a way of going into business meetings where I believe in know thy enemy. So I worked out exactly what they were paying for a PCR test. And if we give them full runs, we did a bit of investigation before we went to the private labs to sort them out. And we charge, for the rapid test, we charge 400, which seems to be, it's 50 Rand more than going to a Dis-Chem or anywhere else. We can, obviously, if there's more than one person, we'll negotiate. And sometimes we have to do it for free because the people just don't have the cash and they're sick. And then the full PCR test we do for 750, which is actually 100 Rand less than a mainstream lab would charge you if you did a walk-in.
Right.
So it's financially it makes sense. There are advantages to using a company like us. We're not the only one. There are about 3 now in Joburg that are doing it. But there are also disadvantages. You can't clear. One of the major ones is the medical aids don't like paying. So even if it is a medical test, they say that our service fee is included in the cost, and we pay the lab, the patient doesn't. But it's got the safety factor. Our nurses are checked. They get checked. They wear the proper PPE and PPC
and I suppose
PPE equipment and everything.
The thing is really it's from a convenience point of view. That
It's convenience and safety. People don't like standing in a queue anymore. And apart from the fact that it's a bit dangerous at this time of the game, this stage of the game, it's also time consuming. And if we can pop into your home and take 10 minutes of your time, it makes much better sense. I mean, the Oaks are prepared to pay a lot more than to go stand, you've got to go to your doctor, get a script or get the Lancet or whatever note signed by him, and then go to the actual hospital to get your sample taken, and then you can wait up to 48 hours.
Yeah.
The guys are busy, hey? They're working damn hard, and it's all driven, it's fear and necessity, I suppose. Travel is necessity. Health-wise, it's fear. People are phoning us and saying, come test us every week, and I keep saying, what for? You don't have samples, relax, mate. But it's quite busy. I think everyone's busy at the moment. We're all trying to do as good a job as we possibly can. The travelling wise, make sure everyone gets their stuff on time so that no one misses their flights, that sort of thing. And then obviously for the medical side to help the people that are very sick and help them out with what they have to do when they test positive, etc., etc.
How do people get hold of you? Is there email address or is there...
They can look for Travac on COVID testing or Travac on the websites. They can send me an email to mike@travac.co.za. There are numerous numbers, but there's also, it's on the website, otherwise they can just, my number is on there, my direct number as well. So we obviously get phone calls at 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. By 3 o'clock I'm not as pleasant as I am now, but apparently I'm not allowed to say anything yet. But we're there to help, and we'll help as much as we can. It makes people's life easier and a lot more certain with regards to the travellers. They know they're going to get their stuff on time.
Mike Schippers, MD of Travac, thank you very much for joining us in the Mansfield Today studio. That wraps it up from a travel point of view. We'll catch you tomorrow, where we're talking property. And this week, we're going to be talking specifically about the new municipal increases that are coming into effect. So thank you. And if you're wanting to find out anything related to travel in any way whatsoever, then you know who to contact. Flight Centre. Till next time, bye-bye.